So Martha Davidson is our special guest. She's a global leader. So Martha Davidson is a global leader with extensive experience in leading IT systems. Her passion for empowering women, especially in STEM, defines her career. Committed to mentorship and fostering inclusive environments, Martha Davidson champions the recognition and potential of women. As a speaker, author, co-author of Rising Beyond Limits, Leading Today for Tomorrow's World, she has published leadership research and serves on the founding board of Pink STEM. Her belief in self-confidence and breaking limitations inspires women to pursue their aspirations. Martha Davidson's call to rise up motivates women to embrace their roles as trailblazers and making a significant impact. Martha will speak on empowering women leaders, integrating neuroscience to harness the power of presence, alleviate stress, and foster recognition in the workplace. Please welcome Martha to the stage.
Hello, hello, hello. I'm glad to be here. And I talked about this yesterday. One of what I've noticed over my career of over 30 plus years in the technology space is the disparity between women in the technology space and the men. And this is important because we all have the same brain, we all have the same intelligence, but somehow there's a disparity there. And so, what I've done in the past 5, 6 years is to discuss how we can manage this disparity and bring awareness to this particular perspective of we are empowering others to become the best they can be. So this talk today is basically about empowering women and empowering the world. And in this role, what we'll find is that a lot of times it's not intentional. It's just the way the workplace works. When you look at over 100 men are placed in a managerial role, we're only maybe 87%. And then you get down to different cultures, it gets lower. And then for women in the African descent category, we're at 18%, and only 3% ever make it to the executive suite. And it doesn't have to do necessarily that we're not smart enough. It just happens to be because of the fact that if you look at your research, you'll find that there's this thing called the mirror neurons. And with the mirror neurons, it's like you're looking in a mirror. And when you're looking in a mirror, you're looking at who you like, who you're attracted to. So therefore, what we'll find is it's not intentional. It's just that you trust who you trust. And so if you're not familiar with someone's work, you're going to pick someone whose work that you trust. So today, I just wanted to bring what am I doing in this space? And what I'm doing in this space is what we'll talk about. Every day, women pour their hearts into their work. And they pour it into their work with the conviction of this will help their community. This will help how they are perceived. But sometimes that's not what happens, right? Again, it's around the fact that women are not at the same esteem level as men. One of the things we like to iterate is that it's not only our experience, but how we show up. But if we understand the brain and how it works and how we think and how we feel, we're able to, as women, be able to have that understanding that sometimes it's our perspective on how we see the world. And so sometimes we, what I consider over deliver, instead of understanding what is it that is expected of us. So what my research is around is Imagine a world where your voice is heard and your contributions are valued and you feel energized rather than drained. So what I'm doing is just reframing how we operate in the corporate world. Reframing from the perspective that when we operate from the perspective that we're doing our best, we're showing up as our best. And if you have that energy and that perspective, you'll find that your work is being honored and your work is being addressed in the way that you want it to be. So, where does the brain come into this? When we talk about the brains and authenticity, our brains are remarkable but can sometimes lead us astray, right? And that's a lot of times because of our perspective on how we see things. So when we're in a role such as women in a predominantly gender oriented environment, we have to look at what is it that we're trying to achieve and why. And so it's up to us to reframe what it is that we want. And a lot of times what we want is not to be so much liked, but to be appreciated for the work that we have completed in our area of expertise. And so there's ways that we can do that. We'll talk about that in a few minutes. But connection and leadership, our brains are wired for connections. We are socially wired beings. We are individuals that are here to be loved, to be affectionate with one another, to have great relationship. So that's just a natural being that we have in common. So it's those commonalities that make us be able to work in an environment that is structured to be an alignment with everyone that's in your team, no matter what their differences are. So as we continue in this area of leadership, our authenticity, rather than us looking for approval, is key to our success as an organization as a whole in a leadership role. What we find that our stress comes because we're not considered appreciated. But then we have to think about what is it that we're expecting. Because if what we're expecting is very clear to us, you will get the results that you want, right? Because it's what my coach says, what you focus on in business and life is what you receive. And so if you're focusing on, well, I can't get ahead, or you focus on, this is how I get ahead. So that free framing in the brain is very important for women to understand that they don't have to stress out, they don't have to burn out in order to be able to be effective in their roles. And it's also key for us to have these breakthrough moments where we can look at stress and say, why am I being stressed? What's causing that stress? And how would I like to feel? And how do I manage stress? Instead of, um, I always say that women as a whole are trained differently. We were told to go get a college degree. We were told to go get that education. And we were told to work very hard. And you get that promotion. But what we find is that's not the case. So we over deliver, we overwork, and we still don't get the job. Right? How many of you can, women in the room can attest to that, right? So what do? What we do is we look at what it is that we want to focus on. Is this even a role for me? Is corporate America for me? Is the workplace for me? And when you begin to look at why are you looking for these roles and learning to work in a particular environment, is it because that's what you were told? Or is that because what you want? Because when you want something and it's tied to your passion, it's tied to what you like, it's different than being in a role because somebody said that you needed to get this role. And it's different because you don't get the role. And you get stressed out and you get burned out. But if we begin to reimagine what it is and why, well, Martha, that's nice words, but what does that mean? I'll take myself as an example. I started my career very young at 21. And first of all, most people know that if you don't know, a brain does not develop until you're 26 or 27. So your managerial and your decision making skills are not at the level that an older individual is. So when I was in this pathway, I think I was 21 and I was managing women that were like 30. And that wasn't a good move, right? Because they're like, I got kids older than you. How can you be managing me? And so a lot of times when we're in roles, well, I got the job. I went to college. I got the degrees. So what's the problem here? And the problem here is I wasn't mature enough. That's just the bottom line. I didn't have the decision making qualities that I needed at 21. So we a lot of times are put in positions and roles that we're not qualified for. One is either because we don't have the skill set. Two is because we don't know how to communicate and manage in those roles. Or three is, but my mom told me if I did all this stuff, I would get the roles. What's wrong here? And so it's like we have to begin to say, this feeling in my body is preparing me to show my true excellence. Is in what is it that you like? Is this what you like? Is this something that you can hone in on? I mean, so well, okay, what happened? So for me, when I was little, I'd ask so many questions. And my mother was like, you ask too many questions. Why do you have to ask all these questions? So when she started bragging about me when I got older, I said, them questions came in current, right? Because that's what I did. That was my skill set, was to work in that. I asked questions. I worked the root cause of problems after problem after problem. And I climbed the corporate ladder, working problems, working things that other people didn't see. But that was my gift. That wasn't anything special about my color or anything special about me being a woman. It was all about working in what you are excited about and what you want to do in life. So we have to begin to say, is this good? Somebody asked me, I have a mastermind class, and somebody said, well, how do you know your gifts? I said, that's a very good question. What do you like to do? I like to have art, but I do craft and gym. But people don't respect that. I said, because you don't respect that. If that's what your gift is, that's what your gift is. So we have to reassess how we train women in whatever that is in their ability to be able to be the best they can be. And so a lot of times when you're seeing heard also has to be taking a stand. Taking a stand, well, I don't want to piss anybody off. But sometimes whatever that example is, it might be insightful for someone else. So it's key for us to remember that if it's said in a very nice way, then it could be insightful. And those were the other skills that I had. Is I did that. But another skill I had was I brought with me some of my trauma from my childhood, and I would like try to show off that I was the smartest one in the room. Nobody really cared about me being smart, but they care about me being as a deliverer. So we also look at those things. And those are things that aren't taught in the workplace, right? So that's why I'm passionate about letting women know that they can achieve in the corporate world, but we have to look and see what's the best way for you to do that in order to excel. So you want to unleash your presence, embody your true self, use confident body language, and project your capable skill leadership. And then you want to share your voice, and then you want to reframe your stress. Because what happens with stress in the body and in the brain is that it prevents you from using your skill set of being a decision maker if you're stressed. And so that the brain is going to operate at the level that you're at. And so the lower level of our brain, which they call the amygdala, or the fight flight brain, will not allow us to go to the decision making brain. And that part is because we are stopping that flow of blood and that energy and that transmitters that they call the neurotransmitters that flows from your brain and from your heart to your brain. All of that is key. So it's just about teaching women how that works. So that's the other area about reframing stress that we don't do in corporate America because that's just not what we do. And embrace your authentic power. We all have power, we all have gifts, we all have the ability to be the best we can be. But then we also have to realize, is this role a role for me? And so if it's not authentic, then what is authentic to you? If it's being an entrepreneur, maybe that's what you should do. But what we don't want to do is limit our gifts. We don't want to limit the possibility of us making the contributions that we can in the world that we live in. So remember, your voice matters, your perspective and value, and your authentic self is a great asset as a woman to lead with purpose and empower others to do the same. So that's my talk for today. Any questions?
Thank you so much, Martha Davidson. That was actually very inspirational. Even though you're not feeling too good, you did an amazing job.